Hello and welcome to this AeroTime interview as part of our special week dedicated to pilots. My name is Martin Popplewell and I'm delighted to be here to interview a number of captains and first officers during this week when we will mark International Pilots Day. We'll bring you some special reports and interviews from across the world as we take a deeper look into the pilots in our world today. Today we'll be hearing from Virgin Atlantic's Captain Chris Pohl. Chris has been flying since he was 18 and joined Virgin Atlantic 27 years ago. He first became interested in aviation at the age of 12 when his father took him to the cockpit of a Boeing 727 during a family holiday. He hasn't looked back since. Fast forward to today, and Chris is one of Virgin Atlantic's most senior captains with responsibility for training pilots on the A330 and the A350. By his own admission, he didn't know what Instagram was a year ago, but since discovering it, he's been busy promoting aviation on the platform as a hobby. He's now got one of the fastest growing pilot accounts across social media. Chris, thank you for joining us here at AeroTime. You got taken into the cockpit of a plane when you were 12 years old. I actually remember being taken into the cockpit of a plane. This was a bygone era. We're showing our age because that doesn't happen so much nowadays. When I was going on holiday, I think we were going on holiday to Corfu, and my dad managed to blag our way into the cockpit. I think he wanted to be there more than we did, actually.
Absolutely, same story as myself.
Exactly. So, but you went in there and something happened which made you think, I want to be a pilot? Because that didn't I loved it. I found it fascinating, but I didn't think I want to be a pilot. Do you remember that moment and that sort of what you were thinking as you went in there and saw it all?
Absolutely, 100%, like yesterday. And it's like one of those things that stays with you for life. Like your father, my father said to the flight attendant, my son Christopher wants to see the cockpit. I didn't even know what a cockpit was. But before I knew it, I was in the cockpit. I was strapped into the jump seat, as I now know it's called, behind the captain by the flight engineer in those days. And next thing I knew, we were rumbling down the runway at Melbourne's Tullamarine Airport. And as the aircraft lifted into the sky, I just was so excited. I was completely mesmerized by the whole experience. And when we got airborne, I remember the three of them looked at me after they'd done their checks and they said, so what do you think of that? And I was a 12-year-old shy boy, and I just looked at them dumbfounded. I said, is this your job? And they all laughed at me, which isn't easy on a 12-year-old shy boy. And I just got a bit shyer. And they just said, yeah, no, we do this for a living. And I said, can I do it? And I got the normal thing that I tell kids today: do well at school, listen to your parents, and one day you too can be an airline pilot. But I never did anything else but become an airline pilot. That's all I wanted to do, and that's all I've ever done.
It's a great story. You know, you had a better experience in your cockpit. I went up whilst we were actually up in the sky. We were flying, but I wasn't there on takeoff or landing.
Oh, that was amazing.
So no, you lucked out on that one big time. Was your dad in the cockpit with you, or did he?
No. There was only one seat, and he obviously gave it up for me, and it was and that's why I still love the man today, because he just wanted me to have that dream and that goal, and I've done it.
So was that all that you needed? Or were there other people in the aviation sector that you maybe started to read about that inspired you and made you think even more, this is what I want to do?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, Martin. Prior to that day, at 12 years of age, I then looked back, and every single birthday or Christmas, I received aeroplanes, model airplanes, airfix models, books on airplanes. And I didn't realize this, but my dad actually wanted to become a pilot. But in his early 20s, he had an accident on a building site. He's a builder, and a 3-inch nail went to his right eye, and that was it. He was blinded in his right eye for life. And so that was his aviation career gone. He obviously didn't push me to become a pilot, but he was always had that interest in aviation. So everything was aviation. We used to go to the airport early to go and visit relatives at the airport, just so we could watch the airplanes take off and land. So I think it was sort of like instilled in with my father. And also when I started going down that route for a career, one of my best friends at school's dad was an airline captain. And I remember having a conversation with him about, can I really do this? And he said, yeah, absolutely, 100%. So I sort of followed in his footsteps as well.
It's been a tough time this last 12 months for everyone in aviation. What have you been doing over the last 12 months? Have you continued to fly?
It's been absolutely awful for aviation. In fact, nobody could have expected it to be this bad. I myself, I've been unemployed 6 times during my career, but I really feel for all those guys and girls out there who have lost their jobs from flying, because flying is your life. It's part of you. And to be stuck on the ground for a whole year now, as many of them have, it's just terrible. For me, I've actually felt that in what I've described online as survivor's guilt. The fact that I'm still flying and I'm still working every day. In fact, I'm busier than I've ever been before. As an Airbus A330 and A350 training captain, all I do is train pilots that are coming back, which is a great thing, but also keeping our current pilots up to speed and keeping the standards up within the airline, which is difficult because the operation is very different from what it was last year. So professionally, it's tough. And also living in hotels, there's none of this social mixing. So you don't go down route and have fun with your fellow workers. You're stuck in a hotel room. So it's tough that way as well. But I'm never going to complain to be flying at the moment because, like I said, I have this survivor's guilt for every single one of my colleagues who were stuck on the ground waiting for their moment to come back to flying. And it is coming, it will come, but yeah, that's tough. And it's been tough on me.
You, I think, have initiated, because you're a big fan of Instagram now, you'll buy airline tickets like you've bought toilet paper meme, which for anyone that's watching this internationally and thinks, what's this toilet paper reference?
Yes.
I'm guessing it's a reference to the fact that toilet paper was flying off the shelves like it was going out of fashion at the beginning of lockdown in the UK, probably in other countries as well, but certainly here in the UK. It's a reference to that, isn't it?
I think it echoed around the whole world because most places in the world, they were running out of toilet paper at the start of the pandemic, and supermarkets were empty. And it was a funny idea. I wasn't on Instagram until more recently. I was only on Instagram probably 12, 13 months ago. My daughter introduced me to Instagram. She was playing around with her phone as young teenage girls do. And I said to her, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm on the gram, Dad." And she showed me Instagram, and it was just pictures of girls and handbags. And I said, "Well, that doesn't interest me." She said, "No, there's other stuff there." And she showed me airplane pictures. And I went, "Oh, okay, maybe there is something for me." So about that same time, the lockdown happened, and I'd been putting a few pictures of airplanes on there. And I thought, actually, I could actually do something worthwhile here because, like I said, I was sitting at home and I'm thinking, am I ever going to get to fly again? Will the airline I work for stay in business? And so I thought, we'll just do a funny meme. So my son, who's really into Instagram, he said, "Oh, there's a guy on Instagram called Dude with a Sign, and he holds up a cardboard sign with quotes on it." He said, "Why don't you do one about like running out of toilet paper?" So we put this idea together of buy an out-of-work pilot stuck on the ground, grounded, saying, "Buy airline tickets like you bought toilet paper." And it resonated throughout the world because everybody knew what I was trying to get at. I was sending a very, very serious message, but it was in a very fun way. It was saying, here I am, I'm an airline captain, I'm stuck on the ground. If you go and buy an airline ticket, that will give trust in the industry and trust in travel and tourism, and we can all come back flying again. We didn't know that it would last a year. And in fact, the message is still very, very applicable today. It's very relevant.
And has it achieved what you wanted? It sounds like it has in terms of how widely it's been circulated.
Well, I have been told by some marketing experts that the Captain Chris brand, if it can be called that, has sold quite a few £1 million worth of tickets worldwide. So that's always a good thing. And every ticket means more of my friends coming back to work, which keeps me busy as a training captain, training them back. And that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm flying some X747 pilot training down to Lagos tonight. So I'm always busy.
Whenever I hear the word 747, a tear wells up. It's none of us realised the end was going to come quite as quickly.
No, it was just so sudden.
As it did. Yeah.
And so many pilots lost their jobs unnecessarily through no fault of their own, just because they were flying the wrong aircraft. I mean, a year ago, I was flying the A340. The A340 doesn't exist anymore. So any pilots that were flying an A340 are currently grounded, waiting for a course to come back and fly a two-engine aircraft.
Just going back to the Instagram, how many followers do you have now?
Today, as recording, 81,000.
It'll be up by the time you finish this, I promise you.
Absolutely. At one stage, it was going up at 1,000 a day.
And if they want to find you, where exactly do they find you? Just Captain Chris?
At Captain Chris. That's it. It's the easiest one on there.
So you have this huge following. Thousands of people every day around the world are checking in with you. Doesn't that bring a sort of a slight degree of pressure and responsibility in terms of what you share and sharing the right thing and getting the tone right? Because it's very easy, I think, with these platforms to say something meaning one thing, but then for loads of other people to pick the wrong end of the stick up.
Absolutely. I could say I've been lucky so far, but I'm also very careful. And remember, I have 2 teenage children who vet everything I put on there, and they said, "No, that's not appropriate, Dad. That's appropriate." So they do look at what I put on there, and they're my moral or social compass, as you speak. I'm a middle-aged man, so I don't always get it right, but I'm learning, and that's the whole thing. Everybody's learnt new skills during the pandemic. My skill is social media. Here I am talking to you, Martin, on this platform, and I wouldn't have thought of doing this in my wildest dreams over a year ago. There's no way I'd be online doing podcasts and media events and the internet. I didn't even know what Instagram was. So yeah, it has achieved, because what I've done, Martin, is I've tried to treat it like a business. I earn no money from this, but what I do earn is a salary from Virgin Atlantic. So I stuck to 3 goals when I started this. Number one, promote Virgin Atlantic, and not just Virgin Atlantic, promote airlines worldwide so that people will come back and fly with us. The other one was to encourage people to fly, and that was by buying airline tickets like you bought toilet paper. So I've been pushing that theme for a whole year now, and it's working, and it's actually selling tickets. But most of all is to support anybody who works in aviation. Yes, I say pilots and my colleagues that are flying, but everybody, the cabin crew, the people that work at the airport, the people that would be working in this bar at this hotel that I'm at the moment, those sort of people, the hotel staff, anybody who works at an airport, I'm trying to support them by saying, look, aviation will come back. It will come back strong. You will get your jobs back, because aviation is amazing, and we all want you back working with us. So that's what I've been doing.
So some real positive stuff there. Have there been other things which have been maybe silver linings to what is undeniably a crisis for pretty much everybody?
The silver lining is the contact I've had from people. I receive a lot of DMs, that's direct messages. I didn't know what that was a year ago. So I get a lot of DMs from people all around the world, from Brazil, from Russia, from South America, all around, South Africa, people all over the world just sending me messages. A lot of them are young people who are thinking about getting into aviation as a career. And I write back to every single one of them. And I shouldn't have mentioned that because I've got enough DMs already. But I do try and write back to everybody with their concern. A lot of nervous passengers, people who are worried about flying, especially during the pandemic. So I get many, many messages, but I also get lovely messages of support from people saying, thank you very much. And especially from people who are out of work at the moment saying, thank you, Chris, for keeping the dream alive. And that really is what I do it for. That is my satisfaction. So it's been really positive indeed, Martin.
What advice would you have for people trying to get into aviation today? I mean, of course, it's a particularly tough time to be wanting to get into aviation, but there will be people that will be joining up, wanting to join up for the first time. What is your advice to them?
Aviation's always going to be there. We're always going to need aviation. I mean, you need a holiday just as much as I do. People need to get those business communications. Zoom is great. This is great, but I'd much rather be speaking to you in person, Martin. And we've had to deal with Zoom. So people still need those business contacts. People still want to visit their family, and people all need a holiday. So aviation will come back. It will come back with a boom, just as people can trust that they can get somewhere and get back again. That's a big problem at the moment. People aren't worried about flying. They're worried about, if I go somewhere, will I be able to come back? That's a big problem at the moment. So once governments sort that out, I think aviation will be bigger than ever. So to answer your question, right now, I would say chaos creates opportunity. And right now, aviation is in chaos. And every time there's been any chaos, it's come back bigger and better before, like when we've had the credit crunch, September the 11th, when we've had the volcanic ash encounters, aviation has always boomed back bigger. This has been a huge downturn for aviation, but I can also see a huge return as well. So here's another fact. 50% of the world's airline pilots are over 50 years of age. That's my age group. Many of them won't be coming back to flying. So if you do the basic maths, that's 25% of pilots will not be around in 2 years from now. And that means that if aviation comes back to pre-COVID levels, there'll be 25% more job opportunities for young pilots wanting to fly. So there's going to be so many opportunities. In fact, many people have already started predicting a pilot shortage. So yes, aviation will bounce back, and it'll bounce back big.
Let's park COVID now and think about happier times. If you had to choose one moment when you were in the cockpit, whether it be one of those I can't believe I'm being paid for this moments as you came into land at Cape Town and saw whales playing in the sea, or whatever it might be, or a funny moment, what would you share with us?
It's funny that you just mentioned that, because if you speak to anybody who flies with me, as soon as we take off, we've finished our checks, I look across to the other pilot and I say, imagine if somebody would pay you to do this. That's my catchphrase, because I just still love it today. I love it every single day. However, my most memorable moment would be flying into Hong Kong's Kai Tak Airport in 1997, that's how old I am, with my father on the jump seat in the cockpit with me, and one of my 2 brothers in the cockpit. So having my dad and my brother in the cockpit doing the famous curved approach into Kai Tak, it doesn't get much better than that. So
you got to thank him for that time that he gave up the jump seat for you.
Yeah.
So it was return the favour time. Fantastic.
And if he's watching this, he'll have another tear in his eye like he had that time.
Really lovely story. Been great speaking to you and sharing your thoughts with us today. That's the end of the interview. But at this point, I'd like to introduce introduce AeroTime's Chief Executive, Richard Stevenson, to join us, as he has a special announcement to make. Richard, over to you.
Martin, thank you. And Chris, thank you for joining us at AeroTime today. I know that I speak on behalf of everyone at AeroTime, at Virgin Atlantic, and I'm sure across the wider industry in wanting to acknowledge your contribution to the aviation sector over a lengthy career, but especially for everything that you have done more recently during this pandemic period. And it is with all of that in mind that it is my very great pleasure to present to you virtually an AeroTime Aviation Achievement Award. Now, this award is made by the AeroTime Global Executive Committee, and I would like to read to you the citation. Presented to Chris Pohl in recognition of his dedication to the aviation industry, for his efforts in promoting and supporting the aviation and travel industries, for his resilience and for the support that he has given to others in the aviation community during the pandemic, for his focus on encouraging his colleagues and the next generation of aviators. The AeroTime Global Executive Committee recognises the positive influence of these efforts and the significance of the impact on the aviation industry and its people, both today and into the future. Chris, congratulations. I'm just sorry that we cannot meet in person right now so that I can hand over this certificate and, of course, the trophy that goes with it. But I promise you that we will find a time to do that in the very near future, and I very much look forward to it. We'll make sure that you get this certificate and the trophy as soon as possible, and I hope that it will serve as a constant reminder of the gratitude of so many people for your efforts and for your support during the COVID period and throughout your entire career. Thank you.
Richard, I don't know what to say. You completely surprised me with that one. I thought I was just doing an interview with you guys to talk about the pandemic and my COVID experience. But wow, that's blown me away. And again, when my father is watching this, you'll put another tear in his eye, in his good eye, the one that works.
Chris, thank you again for joining AeroTime today. It's been great speaking to you. Thank you also for being a great role model for the next generation of pilots coming into aviation, and congratulations on your award. That brings us to the end of this AeroTime interview, but stay tuned for more exclusive content throughout this special week, celebrating the life and work of pilots across the world. Thank you for joining us. My name is Martin Popplewell, and you've been watching AeroTime. Goodbye.